So her question was, knowing what you know now, what would you do different going back?
Yeah.
Right? It's hard for me to do that because I believe everything happens for a reason. I don't believe there's any coincidences. Knowing what I know now, the encouragement I would give someone is to go all in. Like, go all in. Mm-hmm. There was a concept that a mentor of mine shared with me, and it's actually a biblical concept. He was a preacher in Waco, Texas for 22 years, took an oath of poverty. He was 18 years old. When he was saved, he knocked on doors the day that he became a Christian, knocked on doors and saved someone, brought him to Christ. And I said, well, why'd you do that? He goes, because the Bible said to. Like, when I say that he was, you've heard of the term, he was a bull in a china shop. He was a bull everywhere. And he looked at me and he said, I went to seed. And he looked at me in the eyes. He goes, Brian, when is the last time you went to seed on anything in your life? And so that could be a good challenge. Go Google and read about what going to seed means. And what it means to me is like you go so deep and you put everything that you have in the nourishment of you and the value that you can bring to the world. And it starts here in the mind and how you think to actions. How we think, so we feel. How we feel, so we do. So it all starts here. And so when you think, right, and you see and you visualize and then you feel how you would feel then, it creates urgency and action. And what going to seed means is that when you plant a seed in the ground and you give it the right soil, the right foundation, and you nurture it, and you give it the right water, and it sprouts out of the ground, and it grows and it blooms. Well, when it blooms, what happens? It blooms, and then it reproduces other seeds that fall into the ground and go into the soil, right? So I didn't know what it meant, but what he meant was, when is the last time you've given something, one thing, everything that you have inside of you? And it reminded me of another mentor of mine who has this very famous speech, and it's like, all you can do is all you can do. All you can do is all you can do. All you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is enough. Now, to answer your question, as humans, we tend to let ourselves off the hook. We tend to see something worse than it is. And that way we let ourselves off the hook so we don't have to go to seed, or we don't give it all we can do. And so I would say, be your best boss and your worst boss. All you can do is all you can do. Are you doing all you can do? What is it that you want? What are you thinking about all the time? What actions are you taking? What actions could you take? How could you think? So it still haunts me to this day because we only have one life, one dress rehearsal. Like, I played basketball and I was a good little player, and I had to work hard. I wasn't the best athlete. And looking back now, I could have been 10 times the player I was, because no matter how much I did, there was more I could have done. Right. And I think that if you really take a look at that and just day by day say, every day is a new day, all you can do, and then, don't beat yourself up, is I would just go all in. And I think the people that go all in, and go all in means how I'm thinking, how I'm believing, the faith that I give something, then the actions come after that, is you're never going to know how far you can go unless you run. Mm-hmm. Are you running? And are you going to seed? Because if you go to seed, you're going to reproduce, and you're going to leave it behind. And I think that's a great example for the moms that are in the room, or the dads, or the people with kids, is what example are you setting to them? Mm-hmm. And so it's so easy to be content and complacent in life, and I don't think that's where happiness lies. I know that, and I'm lazy by nature. Like, there's nothing more than I like doing, just laying down, just doing nothing and eating ice cream. But after a couple of days of it, I feel awful. I start feeling, my self-esteem starts going down. And so those are the things that I would say, is that even today, like, keep myself in check. Am I doing all I can do? And at the end of the day, the people that, like, you see going fucking nuts in business and life, and I'm not talking about social media, I'm talking about the real thing. They have all the obstacles that all of us do. They have all the demons that we all deal with internally, but they do it anyway, and they go to seed. They're normal people. You know, and I think sometimes that we glorify people, give them more credit. The credit we need to give them is they had the courage to face their fear and do it anyway. That's the courage that we really need to give people that are successful, right? And if you see someone on stage constantly talking about themselves or in posts constantly reverting it back to themselves, I would just keep in mind, like, they're making it about themselves. And you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, I think sometimes just don't buy into your own bullshit as you start progressing and winning. Remember that there's someone that needs to know where you started. And we all have a different story. So, you know, Prove It wasn't start off of a bunch of successes. It was start off of a lot of failures and backs against the wall. And I was $1 million in tax debt. Now, to get $1 million in tax debt, you had to make some money. However, it's not fun to be that way and not knowing where your next paycheck's going to come from and just getting criticized and, you know, because you had a business that failed and the whole social media world was pointing at you and media. That was me, you know. So luckily I had a few people that believed in me and had faith and said, get back on the horse and you just suck it up and do it. So just do it.